Alright, Christian here, and today I'm going to be making an updated review and story on the Anker Prime 6-in-1 140-watt charger with two AC outlets, two USB-Cs, and two USBs that go up to 140 watts. If you want more on the specs of this thing, you can go to the Amazon or Anker page, so I'm not really going to get into that too much, but anyway, I'm going to make a review on this, tell you what I think of it based on my first month of using it since I got it day one, what I like, what I don't like about it, things of that nature. Y'all know how I roll for those of you that watch me on Instagram. So I ordered the Anker Prime 6-in-1 charging station the day that it came out. I'd watched the Anker Prime event that they had in New York. I think the day after they had it, I watched it back, and I'd previously owned the Anker 727 charging station, which looks very similar to this, just with the gray stuff right here, and then just less power through the USB Type C, but very similar form factor. So I'd had that for a little while, and for me, that was a good charging station, and it still is, but the reason why this charging station right here was so appealing to me is so that I can charge up the Anker 737 at 140 watts. Since the Anker 717 wall charger that I bought towards the end of last year, that thing only lasted 4 weeks, so I returned it, got a refund, but blah and blah, blah, blah. But no, as soon as I got this in, I did some tests, and long story short, it was able to recharge my Anker 737 battery in under an hour, no problem. It's able to charge my phone super quick in under 2 hours. And then my MacBook and my iPad can recharge in around 2.5 hours at full speed. And then my Switch just takes forever to charge, but it can charge the Switch too. And then, update a review on that too pretty soon. And one thing that's interesting about the Anker Prime 6-in-1, just like its predecessor, the Anker 727, are the two AC outlets. The thing is, this charging station is really slim, and is way slimmer than your average power strip. So a lot of people may look at this at first and think, how the hell are you supposed to plug things into here when it's super duper slim? Well, you just plug something in like this, and the port just kind of meets the plugs, right in the middle. And then when it's done, it just flushes away like that. It's pretty cool. So it keeps this thing slim, which I do like. It also has a little display right here for the wattage. So currently nothing's plugged in. So it's got 0 watts. And if I turn the camera around real quick, so as you see, this shows the wattage and nothing's plugged in right now, but I'll start plugging things in to show you how that looks. And then you got all four ports, and then you got the voltage times the amperage. Now, for some reason, when it comes to the USB ports, it states 5.05 volts, 0 amps with nothing plugged in, which is kind of weird, but it is what it is. And if you want to switch between the modes, there's just a little button on the right side. So, yeah. So, based on my experiences, so after I tested it out to see what it can do, what have been some of the most common use cases in my experience so far? Well, when I'm at home, I would normally, use it to plug in, let's say, my TV. So I'm gonna plug in my TV, my monitor, whatever you want to call it. So I'll plug that in, and then the TV should be turning on. Yep, so there you go. And then I would also plug in, sometimes I'd plug in this little 3-in-1 adapter thing, and I'll make an updated review. It's a little switch dock, it's pretty cool. So I have that plugged in as well, and then I still have the USB-C ports and the USB ports. So now what I'm going to do is start plugging things in so you can start to see the power that it's capable of. Now do keep in mind, my devices right now are varying in the charge level, so you're not going to be able to see the full picture of just how powerful this. Some things are charged up and some things aren't, but just know that this thing works and will do the trick just fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'll plug in my phone, I'll plug in my iPad Pro, my Nintendo Switch, and I guess I'll plug in some AirPods Pro as well, just to have four devices plugged in, just to show you an example. So I'm gonna plug everything in. So give me a second to get that set up. All right, so the switch is plugged in. Now let's grab my iPad Pro. All right, cool. Next, my phone, and then my AirPods Pro. All right, so I got, oh, all right, so I got everything plugged in. So my iPad Pro is charging up. My Nintendo Switch is charging up. The AirPods Pro, I'm currently recording with the AirPods Pro in my ear, so I'm charging up the case. And you see it's chugging about 50. Oh, and as you see, it's doing about 50 watts or so. And if you want to see what each port is doing, there you go. And everything's going to constantly adjust. And then if you want to see the voltage time, there you go. So that's what it's doing right now. We'll plug in the HDMI into the multi-switch thing. So, yep. So overall, everything works. So I'll plug in devices like that. Then anytime I need to recharge my Anker 737 power bank, I'll just plug it into the first USB Type-C port. Will take less than an hour. We'll charge it up quick. No questions asked. Although a slight little con when it comes to the Anker Prime when charging the Anker 737 is it does get a little warm, but as a protection measure, the Anker 737 battery will slow down the charging speed to protect itself from overheating and the Anker Prime charging station, which is good. And not to mention, like this thing, in 30 minutes normally through testing, charges to about 70% in half an hour. So I have no problem with it slowing down a little bit towards the end because, I mean, the Anker Prime's going to recharge in under an hour. So do be mindful of that when you're plugging in something super high powered like the Anker 737 battery or your 16-inch MacBook Pro. So do be mindful of that. Now, another thing I forgot to mention when it comes to the USB-C ports is that if you use both of them combined, you can get a combined 130 watts of power with 65 watts being split. So that's part of the reason why this thing is so expensive. It costs 110 bucks since I forgot to mention earlier, but the idea of this is it's a replacement for your power strip and a replacement for a bunch of your wall chargers. And I could tell you, based on my first month of using this, it's really good at doing both. Not to mention it's super slim and all that good stuff. So in terms of charging laptops, no problems. And again, like I said earlier, if two people need to charge a laptop, it can handle that and more. And you'll have room for the USB ports, and then you'll have room for the two outlets depending on what the situation is. So that's how I normally use it at the desk. However, there's more. So, during my trip up to LA with my dad, we stayed in a little hotel just over the weekend, going to, social skills group I noticed that I would have, say, my switch plugged into the outlet through the mini dock, and then I would charge up, let's say, the Anker 621 batteries, these things right here, right? And then sometimes my dad, he'll charge up his iPad Pro there, or he'll charge his phone, or he'll charge his AirPods. But no matter what we threw at that thing, on our trip up to LA in the hotel, it handles that no problem. And one thing that's nice about this that is overlooked is the right angle plug. So for one, it makes it super easy to fit behind furniture, which definitely came in handy during the hotel. And two, it doesn't really stick out, so you don't have to worry about the cord being damaged when you have furniture pushed up against it. That's a nice feature. Another thing that's about this that most power strips don't do is the cord. Hold on, the cord itself is detachable. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna put my iPad down for a second. So, so I'm gonna put my phone down real quick. Now, one thing you should know is if you have the cord detached, it doesn't work. But the point of the cord being detachable, at least in my experience, is so that this is easier to travel with, which I definitely appreciate because the normal power strips that have the six outlets, the one that your grandpa had, right, that people still use to this day. The cord is non-removable, so if it breaks, then the whole thing is screwed. So, and it's super bulky as well, so having that detachable cord is nice. However, one piece of feedback I would give to Anchor if they want to improve on this is to sell the cord separately because some people may want to carry the charging station from one room to another and not have to unplug and take the cord with them everywhere. Or perhaps some people reported with the 727 that they lost the charging cord and so they're kind of screwed and they can't use this thing without the power cord that comes with it. So, Anchor, if you're listening, I would highly recommend that you sell the detachable cords separately in case people want extras for different rooms or for travel, or in case people lose them so that they don't have to buy a whole new unit. So that would be something I'd recommend to Anchor. And then I have a couple of things that I'll mention afterwards that I think would be good ideas for Anchor. But anyway, back to the product itself. So the cord is detachable, which makes it easy to pack and travel with, which is definitely appreciated. So during the trip to LA, it really did its thing. It worked great. And what was funny was, I remember, my brother and a couple of our buddies, they was coming over just to make music and stuff, and it was the night before, my first week of classes last week, right? And so, you know, JD, his phone was dying, right? His phone had died, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me grab the Anchor Prime charging station and just charge his phone up through there. And then another buddy of mine, he had his MacBook Pro charging up through there, and that thing was fast. So, once they saw it, they was like, "Ooh, damn, this thing is actually really cool." And then my brother noticed it and it was like, "Yeah, that thing is some serious business." So, I mean, that was pretty cool to show off to friends and things of that nature. So, that was nice. But anyway, so I showed that off because and I think it's really cool. And then it came to school. So, in the past, when I would bring my Anker 727 to school, I would normally use it at a desktop in the commuter center to just plug in the TV, the switch, and all my various devices and just charge everything up through there. I haven't really used the Anker Prime for that kind of purpose yet because of a wall charger that I purchased recently, and I'll make a updated review on that on here too soon. But What I have used it for a lot is, anytime I'd go to class, right, I noticed there's not a lot of outlets everywhere, and, everybody's gonna bring their phones, and, I mean, a lot of people are gonna charge their phones to their laptops in class anyway, but a lot of people will bring their laptops, a lot of people will bring their tablets, including myself, and outlets are kinda scarce, so people kinda have to in those classrooms anyway, so people kinda have to plan ahead and be like, "Alright, I'm gonna be in this class for an hour or 2 or 3 hours, and there's not a lot of outlets. Oh, snap." And so they kinda have to plan that, but with the Anker Prime 6 one, I'm like, "Nah, let me find a corner, because normally the outlets in the classrooms are kinda scattered around through the corners of the wall, and there's normally only, like, 4 sets in the room, 1 in the back, like, just 1 for each wall, right? So I would just plug it in, and I would charge up my stuff, and occasionally, I would just offer it up to for other people to use because I think it's just cool to share because, I mean, let's be honest, everybody's got phones. Every student that I see has a laptop or a tablet, and they run on battery. You know what I mean? So just to have a convenient station to where multiple people can plug in their things if they need to, or plug in multiple devices, and it's really small and compact. So far, it's been good. However, I did have a bad experience with the original unit that I got of this when a couple people accidentally stepped on it and they didn't see it, so that was my mistake for putting it there. And then when I took it home, I had gotten no protein shake thing juices in there, which messed it up, and then I tried to clean it up, and so then I tried to clean it up and I had messed it up, right? But thankfully, I had purchased it less than a month ago when it came out, so I just got it returned and it's all good. So that was just my wrongdoing. But I will say, during school, during classes, being able to charge up my things and then being able to have other people charge up their devices. Like there's another dude in a class and he had an old school MacBook with the old school MagSafe, I think 1 or 2, that doesn't charge through USB-C, and he just needed an outlet to plug in his MacBook. And so that and so the Anker Prime 6-in-1 was able to handle that, no problems right there. So, and then I was just charging up all my stuff, pretty much just charging a bunch of my things before, I get out the class. But the point of this is it's really good as a power strip because it's nice and small and lightweight, and it has the two USB-Cs and the two USBs. Because let's think about it. Like I've said on lives in the past, how many people want to carry one bulky power strip and 4 wall chargers for 4 separate devices and carry that to school or the coffee shop or travel with it, on a plane or on a cruise, on a road trip? Not me. I'm not trying to carry 4 big bulky wall chargers. And that's the thing. That's a pet peeve of mine when it comes to, companies that still include wall chargers with some of their products. It's either it will charge your device slow or it's super big and bulky. And it just wastes a lot of space on a power strip. And that's why something like the Anker Prime 6-in-1 is priced at where it's at $110 because you're replacing 4 wall chargers and you get a detachable cord and you get the digital display. So it's kind of a mix between a cheap power strip and a bunch of wall chargers just combined into one. And the cord is decently long at 5 feet and detachable. And I know it's pricey, and some people may be like, "Oh, well, this is just a like $110 power strip. Like, why the hell would I get that?" Again, the point of it is to replace your laptop charger and replace other chargers as well and just free up space because that's what you're really paying for, not to mention the digital display and things of that nature. That's what you're really paying for. So, now what do I like about it? For one, I like the size of it. It's really nice and slim. I like the detachable cord, which makes it easy to travel with. I like the two USB-C ports that can provide up to 140 watts of power if you use one of them to charge up a high-powered laptop or power bank. I like the versatility of the ports with two outlets, two USB-Cs and two USBs, so you can plug in a little bit of everything into this. So the right angle plug is pretty nice too. I also like the fact that I can charge up the Anker 737 in under an hour when using the Type-C port on its own. Not to mention, it still reaches USB ports plugged in. USB-C ports plugged in. I mean, two USB ports plugged in with one Type-C. The Type-C will still give you 120 watts, which is really fast. And that's when you have the two USBs plugged in. Now, when you plug in the other Type-C, it slows down to 65, which is still really good for a lot of laptops. But, and even despite, with everything else plugged in, let's say, I plug this in, I plug in my iPad, I plug in my phone, and maybe my AirPods Pro, or maybe the Anker 621 or something, I can still recharge this guy in under an hour and a half with everything else plugged in. So pretty much no matter what I throw at the Anker Prime 6-in-1, it'll charge everything up pretty damn quick or at full speed. It's really insane. Not to mention you still have room to plug in traditional plugs for, say, a monitor or a fan, a printer, or whatever other smaller AC appliances that you need. This guy can handle all of that. However, some of the things that I'm not too big of a fan of when it comes to the Anker Prime 6-in-1, for one, it does get a little hot when it comes to charging up high-powered devices. It does get a little hot to the touch, so that is a bit of a downside to it. Secondly, the pop-up outlets can be a little bit tricky at times in terms of trying to get it to pop up and plug in, although it's not too bad. It's also pretty pricey at $110, so I wouldn't really recommend it to someone that doesn't have a laptop that can charge 140 watts or even 100 watts. It's not really for that kind of customer. And then another thing I wish they had was a wireless charge pad, just as a nice little add-on feature. Because the thing is with this, there's all this space right here from the Anchor logo on down to the wattage meter, but there's no wireless charging. I mean, imagine you just plop your phone down and you just want to wirelessly charge. I think that would have been a nice feature to add on. And that was also lacking on the Anker 727. So Anker, if you're going to sell a successor to the Anker Prime 6-in-1, I think it would be nice to add on wireless charging. Although I kind of understand why they don't include it because of the heat that comes from all the USB-C and the USB ports, but I think it would be nice to have that as an option. You know what I mean? Even if it's like 5 watts, just a little something. You know what I mean? And also, I think for a future version, I think Anchor should have 3 USB-C ports and 1 USB port because the thing is, with the Apple event coming up in, I think, 2 weeks or so, or maybe next week. But with the Apple event coming up soon on September 12th, in about 2 weeks, the iPhones are probably going to come with USB-C for the first time, which I've been waiting a long time for, but that's a whole nother rant. So for a future version, I would recommend that Anchor throws on 3 USB-C ports and 1 USB, or if they're daring enough, 4 USB Type-C ports. That would definitely be the future, where the first two USB-C ports can go up to 140 watts, and then the third one can go up to 30 watts, and then maybe the fourth one could do like 12 to 15 watts, like a 5 volt 3 amp or a 5 volt 2.4 amp. so that you can charge up, let's say, your MacBook Pro, maybe your iPad Pro, perhaps your iPhone 15, or even iPhones that support fast charging. You can plug in your iPhone, and then you can plug in your AirPods or your Apple Watch or whatever other device that supports fast charging through USB-C. Just to have three or more USB Type-C ports, I think would be a huge improvement in the future. And I would also recommend that maybe Anker makes something with a similar form factor to this, but instead of the two AC outlets, for the people that want wireless charging, perhaps you replace two AC outlets with a wireless charge pad and still have the USB ports. I think that would be really nice on the desktop so that perhaps you could wirelessly charge your phone and then you could plug in all your other devices like your MacBook, your iPad, or whatever tablet, or whatever wireless charging device phones you have, Galaxy phones, whatever you got, and then you plug in your laptop. You plug in maybe someone else's laptop, maybe a tablet, maybe some earbuds, a smartwatch, whatever you got. Power banks, you know what I mean? So, if Anchor's not going to include the USB Type-C, I mean, not the USB-C, the wireless charging on a device like this with the two AC outlets, then in my opinion, Anker should sell something with a similar form factor to the Anker Prime 6. Instead of the two AC outlets, you could do wireless charging. So that's what I'd recommend to Anker. But overall, first month of using these, it definitely gets my stamp of approval, and I'd recommend these to people that have a high-powered laptop or high-powered power bank that can recharge at the bare minimum 100 watts. And anything less than that, I don't think it justifies the cost of $110, even though it's really nice. It's obviously not for everybody, but for me, having the Anker Prime, having the Anker 737 power bank, having my MacBook Pro right here, 13-inch, having my iPad Pro, and then my phone that I'm recording this on, my Switch, just all the various devices that I have. It's really good for me. So in my experience, I'd rate this a solid 4.5 stars out of 5. So rounded up 5 stars. It's a really good power strip slash wall charger replacement. It's easy to take with you on the go. It's really good for sharing, so multiple people need to charge up their phones, tablets, laptops, whatever they got. This guy can handle that and more. And in my opinion, out of all the devices on the Anker Prime lineup, the Anker Prime 6-in-1 charging station is by far the most versatile one because the 240-watt charger, yes, it has three USB-Cs and one USB and can fast charge two laptops, but there's no AC outlets. And then you got the wall chargers. Those are more portable. And then you got the power banks and all that. But yeah, that's going to do it for this review of the Anker Prime 6-in-1 charging station. If y'all have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.